Kate Falcha, welcome to Irish Granny Tarot. It's time for our Saturday book. Before I even start, my gun neighbor, I think he's setting up defenses. He's created a huge ditch all around the house like a moat. I'm waiting for the alligators to be delivered. Now they're using a jackhammer to tear up part of the driveway. He stopped. I was ready to do this an hour ago, and then I had to stop because he started making noise. So if they start making noise again, I will continue, and fingers crossed, it won't be too distracting. I apologize. I guess they're preparing. In the meantime, we want to complete our book, The Convoluted Universe by Dolores Cannon, Book 1. This will be video 5 of this book. And I think we'll probably be able to get into the next book. We're going to do book 2. A lot of interest, and why not? So, video 5. Chapter 10, The Place Called Home. So, Dolores Cannon has had a number of subjects regress to some place they all, even though they don't know each other, and this is a collation of sessions, hypnotic sessions done over a long period of time all over the world, but they all call this place home, and it's not Earth, and they have an overwhelming emotional connection to some desolate planet, a planet with spires that are left. Cannon calls them the Star Children. She says they see Earth as an alien planet. They really don't want to be here. They think that people of Earth are too violent and callous, and they only come a small number of times to bring a new infusion of non-violent blood. That's what she was told. They're volunteered. They don't remember where they come from until they go under hypnosis. The hope is that their non-violent life force would have a positive effect on people on Earth. They don't remember volunteering. They just feel unhappy. Many of them actually try suicide. They're very unhappy, and that's why they come to her for help. And under hypnosis, this all comes out. Cannon got mail from around the globe about it, and the younger ones who also claim to be from this place and express the same volunteer purpose for being here, they seem to adjust better to it. It's the older people that were the original, I guess, have the harder time. They say that their job is to be a conduit of energy that's needed for the evolution of the Earth. Many told Cannon that we're all going through dramatic changes here on Earth, that the vibrations of the Earth are increasing, our consciousness is opening, raising, and we're entering a new dimension. And some of these came together as a group, as a collective, and some of them are not just here to help, but they're here to gather information as observers out of us evolving. So in 1999, so this is, a while back, Cannon took her UFO books to China for the first time. It was the first time the government let her in. The government in China heavily censors information about UFOs. Cannon met a woman who knew nothing about all of this, but under hypnosis, she told her, in China, she told her that she was from an exploded planet, and it was sad that had happened, and not in hypnosis in her real life. The reason she came to Cannon while Cannon was in China was because she had been unhappy her whole life and didn't know why. And Cannon said that she had several clients while in China who expressed basically the same story. They're sad, they're unhappy, their whole entire lives, and they just do not know why. She was reminded a number of times by, this is going to sound a little disjointed, and because the narrative is not really completely in a flow. It's interjections of different sessions. It's different places and times. It's a collation of interviews and trance sessions. Oftentimes it's a dialogue between Cannon and the person under hypnosis, and often this person will regress and talk as him or herself in a previous life, and then suddenly start channeling some other entity. So if I sound a little disjointed, it's because all this information is coming at us in the book in a little bit of a fractured way, but it does flow. There's a purpose, and it's very interesting. And I tried really hard not to skip too much. There's an awful lot of elaborate description at times. Sometimes the dialogue is a little disjointed of necessity. So I'm trying to make sense of it. So here we go. So she was told that the form of the physical is just energy. It's just a dense energy. And time is a thing about the pulsating of matter. Consciousness is energy, and we can direct our consciousness into form. The thoughts put out there will create form. Remember what I said the other day? We were talking about gun violence, and I said it's something that had not been an opinion of mine, just sort of boom, I had this realization. Guns are just that. They're a physical manifestation of all the negative thought, the negative energy, the violence and aggression and the desire to harm, and the fear of being hurt, the need for self-protection around guns, around interpersonal violence. All of that thought is now manifesting in what we're seeing happening. The country with the most civilian-owned guns in the world, and P.S., the largest number of gun deaths and mass shootings. There's a connection there. It's all that thought manifesting in this negative thing. And I think that's proof of what Canon was told. I'd be curious to hear what people think. So we do direct our consciousness into form, and also we can manipulate it to be in more than one place at a time, and you'll hear stories about this coming out of your subjects. Consciousness has no limits. It derives, and I'm not sure what I meant by this, it derives between the ideas of growth and manifestation. It comes from growth and manifestation. Well, it's what I said. You think about it and it happens. Some discover they have so much power and they like using it, and they become egotistical. There's no love. And this is what happens. This is what this little fascist thing going on. That would be an example. One life lesson that she got was that whatever your situation, whatever others do, your job is to do something to make the most of any situation that you have created. Now, this is not about blaming the victim. This is not about feeling badly about yourself because things are difficult or whatever. This is all about learning, and it's not about judging good and bad. Is this am I suffering and it's a punishment because I didn't choose right? Or am I rewarded and I'm rich because I'm great? No, it's not about that. It's about the lessons that you need to learn. And everything is a choice. It's a lesson that you need to learn. So you can take responsibility for yourself, or you can do nothing and feel sorry for yourself and go into a depression. The worst thing to do is to do nothing when you know that you could do something. You can let life defeat you if you do nothing. So you must try to do something. And that's kind of my inept way of saying earlier in these videos that, yes, it's very difficult to not be overwhelmed by current events. But we know what the answer is. The answer comes to the simplest level, which is do unto others on an individual basis. That's the answer right there. And if everything is too big of a overwhelming issue that feels defeating and depressing, bring it back down to what matters. Just bring it back down to what you can do. And what you can do is service to others. So she had another subject in 1990, and she made the point of mentioning in the book, like I just said, that it takes years to connect the point often that these subjects have in common, and it takes a lot of personal stories to put together the message. So she was dealing with a Vietnam vet who had a lot of problems, lots and lots of PTSD and stuff. And in trance, he wasn't even on Earth. It sounded like he was in a spirit realm between lives. He had no body. He was just light energy. He described being in a large open area full of many beings of colored light. And he felt he was being in a training school, and he was being trained about love and life and God. And they were telling him that that God is not just everywhere, that we are God. We all are God, which would seem heretical, I suppose, to a lot of religions, because their concept of a supreme being is too narrow. It's a much greater concept. It turns out that he was in a completely different dimension. And he was being given a choice about what area he'd like to study. And he knows that he's going to be going to a different world, that there are innumerable worlds. And he was having trouble trying to decide where to go, and they were having trouble trying to decide where to send him, because he was extremely intelligent, but his life on Earth had held him back in some way. Now, this is looking back on probably between previous lives. He hadn't used his potential, and he needed to use his wealth of knowledge to help others. That was his job here. You know, that he got sidetracked by his experience in war. Well, of course. So Earth's a difficult challenge. There's just too much chaos for one person to fix. It is too much. We have to bring our focus in, and that doesn't mean ignore what's going on around you. That's the important thing. I had this conversation with a friend last night, and she was saying it just overwhelms her, and people don't want to hear negative stories. And I still maintain, it's like being in AA. You cannot fix it until you admit you have a problem. And looking around once and saying, oh, it's too much, I can't, gotta look away, that's not good enough. We don't have that luxury. We do not have the luxury. So Earth's difficult, and every word, every world has its specific challenges. And we always have to make sure that ultimately the issue is to have the love of God inside you. Just love one another. And every time you choose that path, it reinforces the good in everybody. So it is possible to make a huge positive change by small decisions, which means trying not to be quite so snarky about Ron DeSantis. Life is a difficult challenge on the Earth. So there are other beings in the room while this guy is having his trance session, and they were evaluating his lesson to see what steps he needed to take next and how he could help other people. And there were a lot of beings of light around him, energy, and they feel sorry for the people on Earth, but they feel jealous of our emotional experience and our challenges. They don't get to have that. We have this golden opportunity to learn on Earth and to feel on Earth. And it's a two-edged sword, I guess. So this guy describes to Cannon that he's arriving at a beach with a beautiful house and beings that he recognizes. He knows them. He can't name them. He doesn't know how he knows them, but he knows them. And they have these beautiful light auras. And they're there specifically to study, talk, and to learn how to live on the planet. They have to have special prep. Cannon asks she asks his subconscious, why did he regress to that particular scene? And the answer was because he can tell people from going through this experience under hypnosis, he's able to communicate to the rest of us that life goes on forever, that we can be positive, we can know love, we can give love, and then we can experience what is beyond this world, that we are spiritual, we can be balanced, and that's the challenge here in the physical. So you may decide what you're going to do in the next life, or be told what you're going to do in the next life, and you have to agree to it, but you get like strong advice. And you come back to the earth to learn more, because this is a school, and their attitude, these more advanced beings, is, well, you can lead a horse to water. People keep making the same mistakes over and over. Part of a subject's physical problems, and this guy's physical problems, are that he doesn't really want to be on earth spiritually, and so he has a lot of health problems because it's kind of a rejection of the physical. Life on earth this was his first experience of pain for him. And it's why he came, to learn this. This was his destiny, is to have this particular pain until he dies. And he'll be on drugs for the pain. I mean, it's actual pain. And he'll be on drugs, I guess it's from injuries from the war. And always will have to be medicated for it. He needs to be in the pain to learn something, you know, what you and I can't know, but something he needs to know. And also, his being in that situation is a lesson for the people around him who have to deal with him. I didn't put that very well, but people who interact with him. So this is not cruel. This could be perceived as a, why do people have to suffer? Well, it's not, because time really has no meaning, and for the spiritual world, for the soul, it's eternal, and this is just hard lessons, but it's a split second in the life of a soul. So humans are basically animals, and we were exposed very early on to beings who came here and introduced warfare. Kind of screwed things up, because that wasn't the plan. Playing army is a bad habit that humans can't seem to break. On Earth, we have unique experiences, but there is a male propensity to fight. Now, we're not blaming men. We're saying that that masculine energy of take charge, aggression, can get out of balance. And starvation and fighting and being godlike in politics are the imbalance of the masculine and feminine. But there are good things, you know. People take pleasure in their family and love of each other and kindness to animals and enjoying nature. And but this whole thing was his choice. The suffering that he's gone through in this life was predetermined. Now, this is not to say that there's not free will. First of all, he had the choice, and he agreed. He wanted to learn the lessons. But continually through your life, no matter what life you choose, you're presented with choices that build on lessons. And so there's never a time when your free will is taken away from you, at least not in the spiritual world. I mean, you know, Ron DeSantis may have something to say about that. Anyway, he went to Vietnam to learn about the evils of war. That was his own choice in the between times. Now he knows. And in the future, in other worlds, he can show people why fighting is bad. So there's a purpose to all of this. It's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to feel it and experience it and know it. It's like reading a book to study for driving, and then actually driving, two different experiences. So he has physical pain, and one reason is for him to learn from that, and the other is to provide opportunities for others around him to learn. So he can dig into his subconscious for endorphins to help him deal with the pain, and she teaches him how. So then, this is about this tapestry room, which is one of the things that she describes that I don't know if I would say I have problems with it. It seems very physical, and I'm suspicious that it's more symbolic than actual, but it's an interesting concept. So let's talk about that. So she goes to Australia, and she has a hypnotic subject who goes through a lifetime under regression and then dies and enters a time of light and love and peace. And it's kind of a quiet resting place. Then this person goes to a place of knowledge with books, that description of that place with many books. So Canon asks this person, can you visit the tapestry room? And this person describes a room full of lights and no ceiling, because the tapestry is higher than you can possibly imagine, and no end to it. And it's a moving, living thing. The threads have feeling, thoughts, and movement and light. They're all different thicknesses with unique energy, and they're equal to all the souls ever and interwoven the thread of each person's life. And souls can choose an existence without free will, just existing in a spiritual setting, but that's not human. They're not human in that case. Human life is difficult, but it is stimulating and full of emotion, feelings, and texture. And that's another, these are different hypnotic subjects telling her the same thing. Some life choices, maybe that path is not the best because the vibrations of that choice are lower. Many keep choosing the 3D earth, and they're stuck on this karmic wheel, and they seem locked onto the earth plane. However, they need this life on earth to connect with certain other souls to work out karma, and it can be frustrating to the spirit between lives because they realize the folly of their earthly choices and resolve to be different next time, and oh well. So there are alien forms of life that have no body but have very low energy, and they're kind of like a group being, like a colony. So souls don't just choose upward movement. Soul progression is sort of a twisting journey, and for some specific reason, you can end up picking a lower life existence, and it adds to the puzzle of what the total sum of your soul and makes it more complete. So there may be something that you need to learn from living a lower vibratory existence for one lifetime. You can't generalize. Everyone's different. Every soul experience is different. Everybody's lessons are different, and judge not. Where are we here? So many souls here today have had lives as ETs, and they're here to help to raise the vibration of the earth. That there are, and this comes up in another book we're going to do later. I just read that this morning. That's so interesting. Kind of blows my mind, actually. I'd forgotten I read it here. It's been 2 months since I read this book. So many souls who are here were ETs and came to help because they are elevated, and they may not know it. I mean, they don't know it usually, but they are naturally on a higher vibratory level, and it's, coexisting with people on earth, setting a good example, putting out that energy. They're helping us elevate ourselves. But there are also many souls here, and this was also described in this other book, who have never been here before, but they're bringing new blood to counteract violence. They've never experienced violence, and they have this. And I think that might be one of the reasons, this is my guess, one of the reasons why some people are so much more gravely, emotionally devastated by violence. It's new to them. It's a thought. So Earth is a living entity, the planet itself, and it has helped in our overall evolution by increasing its vibrations too. And as astrologers will tell you, that the planets interact, the energy interacts, and she uses the stars as a metaphor. It's like each one is a soul, and there are countless numbers, endless numbers, and it's a journey to the infinite, and each life is a, hang on, is a limitation the soul chooses for a specific lesson to do, to move closer to the source, which is the purpose of all of us. So many souls don't realize their greatness. Most of us don't. Most of us have a pretty hard time seeing it, but we are all one. Here we go again, the same old message. We don't give ourselves enough credit that we should see the spark of God in each other. And I do remember, you know, I kind of snark on the Catholic Church quite a bit, so I'll give the devil his due, ha ha. I remember very clearly being taught in Catholic school that we should be able to look at everybody around us and see God in every person, because God is in every person. Now, they go off on a tangent about God being an old man and a dove, and, you know, it gets crazy. But going back to the original intention, that spark of the source of everything is in everybody. And so we should see that spark and know that we're all on a karmic journey. We're all on the journey to the same place. We're just on different paths. And if we all knew all the answers, then it wouldn't be a test. So now we're on section 5, called Metaphysics or Quantum Physics. And if you remember, Dr. Bruce Solheim, in his book, he was told by Anzar that yes, this is the truth, that metaphysics and quantum physics are going to be one and the same when we finally get our act together and understand it. So chapter 11, Parallel Universes. Okay, so in the 80s, she took a subject to a lifetime of being a hunter, and also like a twin. And so apparently, this is very strange. I can't remember this story, so I've got to read my handwriting. Hold on a second. Okay, so she recorded this session, and it was listened to. It was recorded in the 80s and then listened to by a zoologist later. This person under trance said that as a person in the past, he went hunting and brought an animal back that his shaman told him was an extraterrestrial animal, an animal on the earth but not of the earth. And the zoologist listened to the description later and said, yeah, we never ever, according to any kind of evidence that we have, ever had anything like that. So Dolores was able to ask this person directly in a regression, and she wrote a book about it. And this book is called The Legend of Star Crash. And I wrote, here it is again, and it's confusing. No wonder I'm having trouble here. I didn't understand it the first time I read it. So let's just do our best. So according to this book, ours is not the only universe. There are many parallel universes, but they're all on different vibratory levels. And because they vibrate at different frequencies, we don't see them. The description she gave was the blades of a fan. They go fast enough, you don't see the individual blades. It's a very simple metaphor, but it's a good description. They intersect sometimes at points, and at the points of intersection, they're not really compatible. They can't be seen by human eyes because of the vibrations. So this event that occurs in the book was very rare. It was a compatibility of an intersection of two different parallel universes. Very rare. So this person stepped into that point of intersection and was actually in two universes at the same time, didn't realize it, was hunting, killed this animal, but the animal came from a completely different what we would call ET universe. Really weird story. But if the vibes are not compatible, the vibrations, sorry, I've abbreviated. If they're not compatible, you would think that the animal would dissolve. It might, you might see it, but then it looks like it's a mirage and it kind of does the shimmer and fade like Star Trek. So all these universes are interwoven with different vibrations, and they're always moving around each other because they're living. And there's an infinite number, which kind of is creepy if you think about. There's just all this stuff going on around us. We just can't see it, but it's there. Some of them can see us. I think that's the weird part. It's incredibly rare for two to have the same vibration and then to intersect and then to be compatible. And it happens all the time, but we don't see it. It's very rare for us to actually be there at the right time and place. That book, Outlander, well, it's a series of books. Diane Gabaldon, and they made a show out of it, and I know people have seen it. I bought the knitting pattern book. They have a beautiful hardback book of all the knitwear in the show, patterns, beautiful. But I'm digressing here. But that story, that's the basic premise, that if you're the right vibration yourself because of maybe your psychic ability or your genetics or your spiritual place, and you happen upon what they call a portal, but an intersection of, for them, time in this story, universes, dimensions, basically the same concept. And in the books, they had to have a jewel of some sort on their person with crystal vibrations. It's about energy, right? That energy augmented their psychic energy, and boom, they're all of a sudden in a different time completely. And this is kind of the same idea. You don't need a jewel, you just happen to stumble on the intersection of these two universes. Sometimes it can be there for a second, and sometimes they can be there for a day or two, and they say there may be a small difference, you won't even notice it. Like one day there's a tree, and the next day the tree's gone, and you think to yourself, oh, did they cut that down? I'm so unobservant, I've done the same walk for a decade, almost every day. And half the time I can't tell you what block a house is on. I'll try to describe something and I'm completely off by several blocks. My husband will say, well, that apple tree, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, oh, is there an apple tree? So we're not as observant as we think we are. Often we pass through other universes very quickly and don't even notice. And it can even last a couple of days. There can be parallel universes that are so similar. And it explains why sometimes two people will remember an event completely differently, or one will remember and the other one won't. And it explains that Mandela effect somewhat. I'm sure, I've had experiences. My husband will say, remember in 1985 when we went to, whatever? And it's just, I have no recollection whatsoever. So we have counterparts of ourselves. They are identical mostly, but not absolutely. So when you go up to somebody that you're sure you know, and you say hi, and then they look at you like you're a nut because they're not who you think they are, you don't know them, that could be an explanation. And all it may take is the displacement of one grain of sand. So you just never know. So for every act, a new universe is created. Every path you take, every free will choice you make creates a new universe where the other choice occurs. And there's more than one possible outcome to everything, and an infinite number of universes, and the cosmos is always growing, and it often has to do with the energy of thought. So you have three choices. You can do number 1, number 2, or number 3. So the example is you have an itchy nose. Number 1, you rub it. Number 2, you scratch it. Or number 3, you sneeze. Every single one of those things becomes a reality, even the one that you don't choose. I wrote the unfortunate word, even the one you don't pick, but we'll skip that. Because new universes with multiple choices are created, and then there's new universes with multiple choices, and it's a snowball effect, and the cosmos is infinite. It's not possible to go back on a choice, and you can't rejoin universes. Once they're on their way, they're on their way. When I was a kid, we used to play a game. We used to say, every decision you make, the rest of your life will be different. Are you going to pick that cup up or not? It used to blow my mind. So it's not possible to go back, and every decision provides you with a new path and many more decisions that can be made the best of and keep life going in the right direction or not. And your physical body is in all of these universes at the same time. Let's see what I thought I should read here. It starts out being an exact duplicate, these two universes, but after a while changes take place because there's more and more decisions. And in one universe, you might receive an injury that you don't in the other universe, which would make a difference. It's very complicated. The hardest thing of all is trying to relate the different alternate yous in the alternate universes to your true self, to your soul. And that's one thing that makes karma so complicated. Because of the pull of karma, you must experience everything at least once to round out your experience and to work out to your truest high self. In each lifetime, you're experiencing almost everything at once, but you still have to experience all these different things in their right proportions to round you out totally to where you will be a total person. Hence, you have to go back several times through several lifetimes, and you end up existing in several universes each time. But that's the way it is. Our brain and our language are simply not sufficient to truly explain it or understand it. And it's important to remember, which they've talked about elsewhere, is that your spirit, your soul, is capable of sending out tendrils, sparks, and going out into these different universes, and at the end they all unite. So don't worry. So be too hard or too limiting for us to be aware of all ourselves. It would just, we can't. So your soul keeps track of the alternate selves, and may cross over. Like if this body dies, your soul may cross over to another universe where you haven't died, depending on the vacuum that's created, the lessons that need to be learned, the karma that needs to be worked out, or they all meld together. Others may feel that you seem different. You might change. They'll say something to you. Now this I wrote in gigantic letters, what? With a big question mark. So I'll do my best. For example, you don't remember a certain event, and you say, no, I don't remember. And they say, don't lose patience with people who look at you like you're crazy because they can't remember what you're talking about, because this may be dealing with an alternate self. So your personality will be the same. You might just think, okay, so you talk to somebody and they seem like they're the same, but they seem a little different, and you might think, oh, they're just in a mood. Things happen. That might be splitting, and we don't know. Doppelgangers, you've heard of doppelgangers. This is a story that freaked me out as a child, because I used to read these kind of books where people would open their front door and they would be looking at themselves. That's a doppelganger. It's an exact copy of you that you are looking at and interact with in the here and now. And it's like, what is that? So it's two universes intersecting, and you both see the other self, and it's extremely, extremely, extremely rare, but don't freak out if it happens to you. I haven't had that problem, thank God. It's more likely somebody else will see your double and say, hey, didn't I just see you downtown? And you go, let's say here I wrote down, I think I saw you in Target this morning. And you say, no, I was home all day, and there's witnesses that you were home all day. So the decisions of the alternate yous are independent because of free will, and this whole concept totally freaks out organized religion, because there's no such thing as a wrong decision. Now, I'm not saying that there's not behavior from love, which we would call good, and behavior from not love, which we would call bad. I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about moral relativism. It's a fine distinction. But in the spiritual world, this is how the book explains it. It's, you have two choices, and you make the choice from love, and you learn what the positive thing is you're supposed to learn, or you choose the other choice, so you're going to have to learn again. And there's no such thing as a wrong decision. It was the choice you made because of circumstance, and there's lots more choices to come. You learn from your decisions, so don't feel guilty. Any decision you make is the one you kind of had to make. And if you feel badly because you've hurt somebody, that's what you're supposed to be learning from. And that feeling is what is the lesson. So vibration levels prevent you from crossing into universes where your choices were radically different. Like you have a different spouse and a bunch of different kids. The vibrations from all those different choices just make that not compatible. It wouldn't happen. You need complementary energy to be able to cross into parallel universes. This is a hard thing to think about. I hope I'm describing. I'm trying to be true to what she said. I'm trying not to put my own spin on it, but I had a hard time understanding this, and I think that was the point. We're going to tell you guys, she was told, we're going to tell you guys now. We haven't told you before because you weren't ready before. We're barely ready now. At least that's how I feel. Barely. This is a mind-boggling concept. So sometimes you can see through a portal into other universes but not go in, and you might notice it in passing, and you might not know you've noticed it in passing. What? Okay. So there was the story that freaked me out as a child, and it was documented in several newspapers, and there was a lot of debate. Was this nonsense? Was this true? The farmer who went outside one morning, kissed his wife goodbye, walked down the porch steps, got halfway through the yard, and disappeared. She's saying this is true. She's told this occasionally happens, that people will disappear. They'll be walking through a field and they're gone for good. And it is walking through a portal. Just bad timing, bad luck. And it explains a lot of ghosts and paranormal stuff like the Bermuda Triangle, and it keeps things intersect because of unusual magnetism in the Bermuda Triangle, caused by that Atlantean machine that's under the ground, and the waves move it, and sometimes it creates an energy field, and that's random, and that's when ships disappear and airplanes disappear. But not to feel bad, because they're happier where they are anyway. When one alternate you dies, the others finish up their immediate karma work, and they pass too. You can see someone's spirit after death. Like, oh, my grandmother came to me a day after she died, that kind of thing. Either that spirit who has died hasn't fully adapted to being dead yet, or there's a strong echo of their soul. And an example that she was given was the story of Jesus resurrecting. That's what that was going on. And things like ghost hitchhikers. These are souls that are not resolved yet where they are and what's happening. And remember, this can go on for 200 years. Oh, you go down that road and you pick somebody up. The girl in the nightgown is a hitchhiker. She's really a ghost. And it's been going on for 80 years. Well, time has no meaning for them. So another subject tells her more. The alternate yous are all pinpoints in the larger you of your awareness. And as your awareness grows, it can overlap with other pinpoints of your awareness. All lives are concurrent. We are just the tips of our own icebergs. Our planetary experiences are also parallel in other universes, like what's happening with the Earth, they mean. Our planetary influence can make us cling to our understanding of reality. So the planet can kind of hang on to us as we hang on to it. So we have 4 dimensions, you know, we understand 4 dimensions, but there are many more, and they contain parallel universes which themselves have multiple dimensions, and it's, you know, crazy. So these are all parallel universes. They all have intelligent life, and they're all working on karma. Some are much more advanced than us in every way. They know how to travel here. They can cross dimensions, and we will be talking about that in the future. I read about it this morning. We will be talking about it. It's very interesting. So when you talk about UFOs, they do come from a physical space, but it's not physical space as we know it. They come from other dimensions most of the time, and when they come from actual physical places out there, they're so highly vibratorially evolved that they're not physical the way that we are. Now, they manifest here physically because the vibration here is so low that they need an environment that they can escape to while they're here, because it's so difficult for them to lower their vibration. So they do come, oh, here we go with the jackhammer again, I'm so sorry. They do come from a physical space, but it's not as we know it. They alter their perception of reality to coincide with ours. They change their vibration, and therefore they appear like they travel faster, or, you know, like because they condense distances between points. They're not traveling light years, they're traveling dimensions, and it's a whole different thing. And they travel telepathically. All they have to do is get in their little machines and think, okay, Illinois, and then that's where they are. I don't know why they decided to go to Illinois, but you know. So they're not usually coming from other planets in our universe, although they can be, not usually. Our concept of time is really equal to several dimensions, and it causes things to be confusing for us. Psychic powers are not extraordinary. It's just people tuning into other dimensions. It's got to do with wiring. It's got to do with your vibrations. It's just a combination of life experience, and it's nature and nurture, and it's the effort you put into it and your socialization. Some people have been trained to be afraid of it. Nothing to be afraid of. We're all going to be using telekinesis and telecommunication. We're all going to be doing everything with our brains and not to be afraid of it. Often scientists and academic experts have a harder time with all of this stuff because they're more fixed in their ideas, they're entrenched in their ideas and their tenure. And my stupid gun neighbor, he's building the moat and the defenses. He's putting up the portcullis. So our understanding is limited by our perspective and our perception, and attempting to be open-minded is the way to go. So we say all things are happening at the same time, but happening is too limited of a term to use. Happening has a beginning and an end, and what we should be saying is all things are. So there is that which is, all exists simultaneously. Our concept of past, present, and future, our concept of events beginning and unfolding and ending, we just don't have the brain power. It's like trying to teach my old Yorkie algebra. Our perception of linear time, it's limited by our mind's ability to perceive. We're like babies, maybe kindergarten, and we have a very long way to go to evolve. You cannot teach a baby the same things that you can teach a college student. Requires development. Higher beings are capable of seeing everything all at the same time. They don't see things as happening in a linear fashion. So they see, not only do they see 360 all at the same time, so you're looking in the front of you, but you're also looking in the back of you. We can't even imagine what that is, but it's described by people with out-of-body and near-death experiences. beings that are a higher vibration always also experience past, present, and future at the same time. It feels like it would just be a lot, you know? Anyway, we think of our reality as a circle. All points exist, she says, at the same time. If we can look at that circle, there's no beginning and end. It's just everything is all there at the same time. But from our vantage point on the circle, we only see the linear progression. So if you were capable of looking at it all as the circle, there's no beginning or end. But if you're part of the circle, which is what our vantage point is, it looks like, oh, the path goes this way and the path came from that way. So we only see the linear progression, and all you were or will be is in the circle and on a higher plane, like maybe looking down on it, I guess, is how you can see it all. Here, we're limited as human beings because we're looking at it from one point on the circle. Hypnosis is like switching your focus. You're redirecting your awareness from one point of existence to another. I'm going to finish this. Let's see here. That stupid noise. Okay, yeah. I'm going to finish this chapter, and then we're going to take a little break and hope that he has to stop until the alligators arrive. So your subconscious is the sum of all of your lives, your soul experience, and the subconscious keeps all of it. You have it in you right now. And you have the intelligence, the awareness, the experience of your soul, and your awareness is your reality. You think, therefore you are. A moment of oneness is what we are. Nature can be you experiencing multiple universes at one time. Our level of evolution, our vibratory level, determines our focus and our perception of reality. Our growth leads us to greater perception and raises our consciousness. Multiple simultaneous universes are like radio waves. They're together but unnoticed unless you tune in to the different frequency, which is a great way of thinking of it. You know, think of Wi-Fi, think of 5G, is that the right letter? Yeah. Think of all the radio stations and the television stations. They're all in the ether. And if you have the right receiver and you tune in, boom, you've got it. So let's talk quickly, and then we'll be done, about the Philadelphia experiment. Now, this was a big thing. This was an experiment with portals to other universes and dimensions. This really happened. She was told it was a thing that the government did, and it was an inability to properly manipulate it, and it was a catastrophe. So this was experimenting with energies and trying to change vibrations to move from time and place instantaneously, and they tried to move a Navy boat, and people were in it, and it was a disaster. People died. It was terrible. So they couldn't manipulate the energy. Those who were working with the energies did not have the necessary spiritual awareness, which was something the military didn't think too much about. They had a very crude understanding of the mechanics of it. And these experiments that did the Philadelphia experiment, they're still ongoing right now. They're able to transport matter through dimensions by the energy, and they still don't understand what they're doing. They still don't understand the spiritual realities. They only understand the technology a little bit better. Some people really did get trapped in other dimensions, and they're stuck there forever. Some got trapped between dimensions and were actually embedded in this boat. It was gruesome. Aliens are capable of doing it, but they're on a higher evolutionary, vibratory, spiritual level. So people are trying to create openings like windows, and we're trying to create these windows, but there are naturally occurring portals. And the portals are on the same plane. So you can travel distance and time on the same plane. They're not interdimensional, but the windows are different. And they contain different levels of awareness. And we're not really, most of us, like 99.9% of us, are not really spiritually ready for that. ETs travel within the planes of our dimensions, and there are dimensions within dimensions. So Okay, Dr. Mikio Keiko, I can never remember his name, and Einstein agree with this. They agree that this whole scenario of what might have transpired, they're not saying that they know for sure that the Philadelphia experiment really happened, but they've said that this sort of research is going on, and this is the window versus the portal thing, the window being between dimensions, the portal being a naturally occurring one-dimensional opening. Uh, this is real. So, but we don't have the spiritual evolution to really, it's babies playing with fire. That's what it is. Okay, I'm going to stop here because the construction going on across the street is annoying and I don't want you guys to have to listen to it. So I'll be back later with the next video, and because I'm secretly filming this on Friday because I have to go to work. You're not going to notice a big gap. But I can't wait to do this or I'll never get it out there. So this is the end of video number 5, and this will be, the next one will be the beginning of number 6 and the start of chapter 12, and it looks like that might be the end of the book, and we'll start the next book probably with the next video. And I hope you're enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it because I've never read this before, and it's just really intriguing concepts. And after reading this for a few hours, my head hurts, so that's a good sign. So thank you for watching, and I will be back in Salon.